A lot to talk about here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. We have a Christian McCaffrey injury update, a Brock Purdy report from Adam Schefter that he came through with this week, and we are also going to open up the floor and take your questions here on the show for a little bit of a mailbag, so stay tuned for that as well as we chop it up with the faithful. Let's talk Christian McCaffrey. So Niners OTAs are coming up this upcoming week. One of the big storylines, how does Christian McCaffrey look? Last year was a disaster of a season for him and the San Francisco 49ers, given the injuries that he had to deal with. The good news is that all of the talk out of Santa Clara continues to be that Christian McCaffrey looks great. And we had another Christian McCaffrey update this week because Brock Purdy was on the NFL Network and he was asked about McCaffrey, his injury status, and how he's looking. And Purdy said, McCaffrey looks awesome. He's getting in and out of cuts. He means so much to our offense as a Swiss Army knife because, as we know, he can run it in between the tackles. He can get out to the perimeter. He can catch passes out of the backfield. He can line up out of the slot and catch passes there as a slot receiver. He just adds another element and a completely unique set of skills to this Niners offense. And we saw how San Francisco really missed him last year in the pass game, on third downs, in the red zone, as a pass protector. Christian McCaffrey is one of the best players in the National Football League. And Purdy echoed that. He said, look, he's such a special player with all of the ways that he can be used, with the versatility. But it's also the leadership that he brings to the team as well. A couple of weeks ago, Clay Kubiak, who has been elevated to Niners offensive coordinator, also said, I am fired up about Christian McCaffrey being healthy. He looks great. And in 2024, what a crazy season it was. He got that contract extension with the Niners. He got all of that guaranteed money, which at the time was a record deal for a running back that stood until Saquon Barkley took him down this offseason. And right before the year, started to hear whispers about Christian McCaffrey dealing with Achilles tendonitis. And going into week one, his status was unknown. When the Niners were taking on the Jets, we weren't sure the night and the day of that game if McCaffrey was going to play. He didn't play that game. And then it's something that lingered, and he missed the first 8 games. He had to go overseas, and he had to go to Germany to get some stem cell treatment on his Achilles. And we found out a little bit later on that Christian McCaffrey has Achilles tendonitis in both of his legs. So it was bilateral Achilles tendonitis. He comes back, plays a couple of games, and then in the snow against the Buffalo Bills, he starts to look like himself. The 2023 Christian McCaffrey. But on that frozen turf, as the snow was coming down, he got tackled by his ankle, he fell on his knee, and he suffered a knee injury. And so last year, Christian McCaffrey did not record a single touchdown. And a year after winning Offensive Player of the Year, we barely saw him, and the effects of him being out of the lineup were felt for the Niners offense. So this is a significant development. This is great news for San Francisco going into 2025 because they need Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams to be healthy to reach their fullest potential. As for this Adam Schefter report on Brock Purdy, Schefter came out this week and said that Purdy's original asking price was for $65 million per year. First of all, I highly doubt that Brock Purdy asked for $65 million per year, which would have made him the highest paid player in the history of the National Football League. It would have made him the highest paid quarterback in the National Football League. And it would have made him the highest paid player in the history of the NFL by $5 million. I'm calling cap on that. There is no way. And I know that anytime you go into a contract negotiation, it's important to set that bar high and to come down from it. But there's no chance that Purdy seriously asked for 65 and then came all the way down to $53 million. I don't see how that's possible. Schefter also said no teams inquired about a Brock Purdy trade. When Schefter reached out to those teams who maybe needed a quarterback, they would say, really good player, but he's perfect for the Niners. And some people might look at that as a shot at Purdy. I think that's fine. Kyle Shanahan has a quarterback who's been able to run his offense very well, who's the perfect fit for San Francisco. That's why the Niners gave him that bag. Before we continue to move forward, it's all Niners all the time right here on the show. Subscribe to the San Francisco 49ers Report for daily shows right here on the Niners from yours truly. Let's take your questions and your super chats. Cam's dad with a $2 donation. Thank you so much for that. Super Bowl at Levi's Stadium and no rings yet for this current crew. The Niners are hungry. What a storyline it would be that for Super Bowl 60, the Niners don't have to travel anywhere. They can sleep in their own beds. They can play at their own stadium. And they have a chance to win their 6th Lombardi trophy for the 60th Super Bowl. How iconic would it be to see Fred Warner and George Kittle and Nick Bosa win a ring knowing that they have lost 2 heartbreaking Super Bowls? And what a storyline it would be for Brock Purdy to get a ring right after the contract. And probably the biggest storyline among all of them, Kyle Shanahan getting a Lombardi trophy. If Kyle Shanahan wins a Super Bowl with the 49ers, he will go down as one of the best, most influential minds in the history of the NFL. But right now, that big Super Bowl win is escaping him. And I do think the Niners are hungry. Brock Purdy even said it. There's a renewed sense of energy around this team. Kyle Shanahan said that earlier this offseason. He had said, I'm as excited and as ready to go for this season as I've been in recent time. And I think the Niners are really motivated to prove people wrong. James Sprinkle Jones. How is Brandon Ayuk's rehab going? Is he going to start week 1? So Brandon Ayuk's rehab, I think, is going pretty well. You know, we've seen some videos of him moving around at his wedding, no limp, looking strong, putting weight onto that bad leg. And then the Niners had a golf outing a few weeks ago, and he was wearing a sleeve on his leg, but there was a lot of quad definition in that leg. So that's really big because that means that that leg isn't atrophied, which is really, really important. And if the Niners can get the 2023 Brandon Ayuk, who was a second-team All-Pro at a position that is loaded with unbelievable players, that'll do this Niners offense wonders. Greg Smith, hi Chase. Super Jacob Cowing needs to step up. Will we be all right, or will he be all right? What do you think about it? Go Niners. Greg Smith, always appreciate the questions and the comments there. You know, for my OTAs preview, I had said, you know, Jacob Cowing is one of the players who I'm really interested in watching. We saw it in the preseason last year on that little stutter go from Josh Dobbs. He's pretty explosive. He could be a little bit of a vertical threat, and he tracked that ball over his shoulder. He was a highly productive player in college who played a lot of football. We saw it on a little bit of an end around, how he has some giddy up to his game. Didn't really get to see that a lot in the regular season, but we're talking about a 4th-round pick who has some juice. And so I want to see the Niners get creative in finding ways to get him the football, bubble screens, end arounds, long balls. Big year for him because that's a pretty crowded wide receiver room right there. Joe G. Chase, will the Niners sign another free agent offensive lineman veteran within the next few months? Always a possibility, right? Especially if an injury happens at that offensive line spot. Not a lot of good offensive linemen available, but man, you have some questions here. You know, they signed Andre Dillard. They signed Nicholas Petit-Frere. I think they're going to be competing for the backup tackle spots. But if Trent Williams or Colt McKivitz were to go down, I don't have a lot of confidence in either of those players. Left guard, open competition there. I hope that center is more of a competition because I want to see Jake Brendel get pushed. If you enjoyed today's show, give me a real one down in the comment section as far as our real one roll call goes. We always appreciate all of you who tune into the show. So if you enjoyed the content, if you enjoyed this show, let me know.